All right, we're super excited tonight to have Greg Doyle here with us. He's an astral traveler extraordinaire. I think he's been training people in that and also Reiki master and meditation and author of Awakening the Giant Within, a personal adventure into the astral realms. Really interesting stuff. Actually, he was recommended by a listener.
Which one?
Rohan. I actually have the note here. Yep. So it's nice. Some of these are our favorite interviews and some of the best is where listeners get us in touch with people. And welcome to the show, Greg. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, all the way over from Australia. Right?
I think so, yeah.
That's it. Well, yeah, that's it. That's it in Brisbane now. So it's cool. It's nice. Well, it's not cool. It's warm.
Yeah, it's still very cold here. We're still like minus 10 in April. It's not going away, the winter. But the connection's good, and it's nice to talk to you. I don't know where to start. We're gonna get into a lot of different stuff here. I mean, I guess it's appropriate.
Well, we should start in the kiddie pool.
Yeah, start in the kiddie
pool. Sort of maybe bring us up to speed
Make our way to the deep end.
with exactly sort of what, there's probably a few listeners that Astral Travel is new because we do cover so many subjects here that, that's always sort of new to somebody. So maybe you could just sort of give us a quick definition of what exactly astral travel entails,
and then we'll get into the deep end because we have some
to the deep end.
Because we have some listeners that have some pretty specific questions about that realm, and they've been there themselves.
Yeah, we'll move quickly to the deep end.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be too quick, but yeah. So go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, well, look, how I define it would be that astral travel would be the conscious, being conscious outside of the body. When you're outside of the body, because what I found is through my explorations is that we're all leaving our bodies at night anyway. So generally before dawn, when I first got out, it was pretty weird. I was just out there and not knowing what was going on. I was looking at people when they were sleeping, and I noticed people's had this other body that was kind of coming out of their physical bodies. So that's one of the reasons I train people. A lot of people in the beginning said, "Oh, what are you doing to their karma? How dare you?" Actually, most people are very, very positive, but I sort of thought to myself, people are getting out anyway, and it's just a question of waking up in this body. So astral travel is really just being conscious in the astral body that is leaving anyway.
That's interesting. I don't think I've really thought about it that way. So
that's almost the same as lucid dreaming then, except not being asleep?
It would be two fingers on the same hand. I found that lucid dreams definitely in the same bucket and I have a lot of those where I'm conscious that you're dreaming, and you can go to an astral state from the lucid state, but you can see the difference. There is a difference. So the astral state is kind of hyper real, like more real than the 3D state, which made it really confusing for me in the beginning because it was more real. My senses were more heightened. And then in the lucid dream state, you kind of know you're in a dream state. Things are moving, things aren't quite fixed. But we'll get into that when we move toward the deep end, how we can use that lucid dreaming as a springboard. And it is pretty amazing because from my point of view, I didn't even know. Even when people come to astral workshops, I look at them, less so now, but I look at them, I think, why did you come to this thing? I'd never heard of astral travel before I worked out that I was doing it, because it just started happening one day around 18 years ago with me, and I had no idea what was going on.
I feel like that's part of the problem is the more I would try lucid dreaming or astral travel, sometimes it becomes harder in a way. Like I don't know, now that I'm, interested in astral travel, I feel like it'd be very hard for me to, and I'm probably got to get this out of my mind, but it'd be very hard for me to leave my body. I don't know.
I can help get you there.
You're probably right. I think you can try too hard. I know, I think getting over the fear of it, there's kind of like, well, it's fascinating. Like when I come back, in the beginning, I come back from my astral adventures, and it's really that as I said, the hyper awareness that is the signature of astral travel. And I come back and I kind of feel these layers like of armor clapped onto me as I come into mortal consciousness. And I was really kind of pissed off in the beginning because I thought, well, this is crap. I don't want to come into this. And I would just look to get out. I didn't even know what was going on. But I realized that there's a lot of fear, like in the mortal experience, there's a lot of the fear of kind of annihilation, like death being one of the things. And that is very much kind of fed by the mainstream this phenomenal preservation of the body at all costs, even to the point of slavery. So you've got these fears being clapped on you as you come back down. So I think to get to kind of deprogram and recognize that astral travel is a natural state,
right,
is part of the equation.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially that in this dogmatic reality we're living in, whereas one hand we have people that are interested in these topics and people like yourself that are actually participating in it, and then we have, this society that we're stuck in that says that things are only physical, and we're still in that paradigm. Really, we're still led and trained in that paradigm. Then we have to sort of try and, I guess, break out of that.
Totally, for sure. I mean, for me, if we sort of do a quick cross section kind of through to the deep end where I am now. Look, in the beginning, I was really confused because I was being taken out, and I kind of almost went mad. I thought, well, what is reality? What is not reality? When I kind of fell off the fence and accepted that, what they call the illusion, or for instance, what mainstream is feeding at us. When I realized that everything mainstream, this took a while to get there, but when I realized that everything that was streamed at us from mainstream, when I realized that was not the case, when I realized that was the illusion, then I saw it as a teacher. Then I wasn't so angry anymore, because I went through that angry phase that a lot of us go through when you kind of wake up. I think you've got to go through that. No, you do. And I was a naive kind of chap. I wasn't consciously not on any kind of journey. And it does go into the spiritual kind of realms from the experiences I've had. But, and then a few years ago, I was out of my body, and I'll cut straight to this one because it is interesting talking about the mainstream. And I was pulling out of the earth. Often I just blast out, I know I'm astral. And when you're in the astral, your body is asleep. Your body, it's all of a sudden mind awake, body asleep.
So if you just really go limp, then we know that you're in the astral?
If I go limp and a head collapse, and I've got to watch it because there's a glass table here, so it's happened a few times. No, well,
Or should we call 911? I just need to know.
I got to tell you, I did have an astral experience while I was fully awake, and that just blew my mind. But you're distracting me.
Sorry.
I want to get back to what I was saying. What was I saying? One thing that these astral things have really damaged my short-term memory, which I figured would be a good thing. That's right. I was blasting away from the earth. And as I said, I was a pretty kind of naive kind of chap, and not really, I was a classical musician originally. I'd sort of done my own thing, not a political person at all, really. I'm blasting out of the Earth's kind of astral orbit, if you like, and all of a sudden there's this incredible band of fear. I'm going, well, what's this? And I see all of these black helicopters and UFOs. I'm thinking, what's this all about? As I'm moving through the fear, you often get a lot of downloads. And you learn to trust as it comes straight into your cells, so you often get a lot of information. As I'm pulling out, and there's this tremendous fear, I hear the words, and it's often spoken to me personally, I hear the words, Greg, do not get bogged down in conspiracy. For the next year, I am bogged down in conspiracy. All the way from 9/11 to whatever. And that was a big shock to me. That was a wake-up call. And in the astral, I was shown, as I said, I'm kind of getting to the deep end here, but it has a lot to do with the mainstream and what we've been fed. And I really was shocked for a while. And as I said, I got obsessed in researching stuff, which I think you've got to go through that.
Yep.
And then I sort of thought, well, glass half empty, glass half full here. What do I go with? And I just got to go into your own energy and what you do. And anyway, but I kind of was also shown this manipulation of energies by certain ET races and certain humans, certain groups of humans. And this, as someone who has just sort of experienced things, kept out of the current of what's going on, and I've kind of always been a bit that way. I've just sort of been in my own bubble a bit. It was interesting to witness and to be shown a lot of this stuff, and it kind of correlated with a lot of my early astral experiences where there'd been a lot of technology in my brain, and I was thinking, what is this? And so what I really without being
passive.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, once again, that the mainstream says a person is, oh, what a good person because they've achieved that. So that person is measured in what they've done. Whereas ideally, you would. This sounds kind of a bit glib, but I think it's quite profound. I think ideally we do things from what we are. So we're driven to take action from being, rather than the other way around. Rather than, oh, what a good person because you did that. Do you know what I'm saying? This notion of a good person is, and the do-gooder kind of concept. So anyway, yeah.
No, that's
you guys still there.
No,
Yep.
that's it. That's really interesting. I was thinking about a question before we started because I was thinking, I wonder, like, what do you come out with from the astral realm in this big truth, political, like conspiracy thing? And then you've already started to sort of answer where you do see there's a band of fear there, and you see sort of like the inner workings in a way of that, and then having to step away from getting absorbed in that, because that's where we are. I mean, we're constantly balancing on that in this show. I mean, we do a little bit of research for all these different topics we do, and then you get sort of bogged down with all the bullshit in the mainstream media about geopolitics, and it just makes you sick. And then I started taking a break from that, but then you kind of, I feel like I got to get back into it, and I feel like it's a constant struggle when we talk about these things to find that balance and find the being good without having to do something to look good, like I think is what Greg was trying to say.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I think it's walking a tightrope. I think for me now, it's tricky because when things aren't congruent with how you are inside, like for instance, this is the first time I've lived in a city. Well, when I say in a city, Brisbane is a small city and it's very green and all that kind of stuff. But I'm living in a reasonably urban environment for me, and I haven't been in such for a long time, but I've got more connection here, so that's okay. But for me, often when I'm in areas of the populace, it's often I'm being beamed with stuff that's incongruent. Like, for instance, as I said, I was quite a naive chap, and I remember being in a supermarket years ago, not long after the astral experiences had begun, and I heard this woman screaming. So I heard a female screaming voice through the astral to my human ears, to my mortal hearing. And I was thinking, what's going on? I had to leave the supermarket, and I thought, what? And then I sort of looked into things, and I realized a lot of the goods that were being produced there were being produced on the back of some kind of human suffering, whether the items were manufactured with kind of rubbish in them, or whether people who were making them were paid a pittance. So I through that, like for instance, I eat organic food now, not to be a good person, but because I feel good, and also it does sustain the earth through organic farming, having met a few farmers and stuff. And this is what I mean by taking action through being rather than through, if you like,
resistance.
A responsibility. Yeah, this notion that I need to stand up and be a responsible citizen. All these things that are beamed at us from the mainstream and through education. And I was a good boy at school for a while. All these things I realized it's actually the opposite. So not so much to take offense at it all. We do live in an era when I think people get very easily offended. I think I look now at what is being beamed at me from the mainstream and realize, okay, that's a great teacher because it's not that. So therefore, anything that the big stories are not that. And when I've adventured into the astral and explored some of these themes, because you really can, you can go through time and you kind of see astral imprints of what is happening. I think the future probably shows you alternative realities, but for instance, this is a great example. I remember there was this dinosaur stampede that was being that was in the news for a bit here, and it was in Central Australia, and they said it was remarkable because there are all these prints of all different kind of dinosaurs all in the same place. So it was very unusual, and it was all fossilized. And so I remember when I was setting up to go astral, and so it took about a week to get there, and I'd kind of go through my astral exercises and set myself this aim that I'm going to go and visit this dinosaur stampede. Now, I didn't have to. Well, what I realized is our energy systems are incredibly intelligent. We don't need to kind of dumb them down by talking at them as though there's some subordinate creature. So I realized that my system knew exactly that article. I didn't need to research that article profusely to know, for my system to know what I'm talking about, because I read it once. It was enough, you know.
Yeah.
And this is simplicity.
Kind of like remote viewing, how you get that little, you know, remote viewers get that one little thing, and that small intention in that digit or that number or that thing is enough for you to go there.
It is. It's a question of, you know, getting that intention through the logical realms into what I call the non-logical realms, is where the astral thing clicks into gear. And I found astral phenomenon and like remote viewing, it's all kind of timeless. It's beyond time. So often these things happen in a split second. You know, like people will be speaking in the astral, and I'll force my eyes awake because my body is asleep when it's happening. And I'll force my eyes awake, and their voices just sort of kind of speed up into a little blip. And I've experimented a lot with that, and I've realized that the time factor just doesn't exist out of the 3D, which kind of makes sense. But getting back to the dinosaur thing, I felt myself out of body, and often lights or vibrations take me out of body. And we will get into that, because I think you'd be interested in the actual mechanics. So I'm out of body, and I once again I carry that intent, that because you're out there, and it's like a little kitten looking out through the hedge of the front yard for the first time. It's always huge. So I've learned to be pretty unemotional when an astral vibration comes upon me, and it actually feeds into this reality where I'm kind of very unemotional, not non-empathetic, just not sympathetic, I would say. But I'm in the astral, and I'm like in front of these creatures coming straight for me, and I go, whoa, and they kind of go through me. Then I'm above them, and they look, they're all colours. They're all down or a kind of a feathered or down. And this was years ago. And then a few years later, because of what I do, I met some interesting people from all walks of life interested in astral experience. And there was this guy telling me, who was quite knowledgeable, saying, oh no, they're finding out that dinosaurs, in fact, were not as we thought they looked. They actually did perhaps have down, or like, it was a beautiful, colourful scene. It was nothing like the texture that scientists give dinosaurs now. So often information I get in the astral, I will later on research it. So I try to stay. I think it's very much me. I've just always been trying to stay out of researching stuff until it happens.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
I think a lot of dinosaurs had feathers, they were saying now.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
feathers and down.
Yeah.
It was like
that's crazy.
Feathers, and there were purple, there was blues, there were reds, there were yellows. Like beautiful. just, and none of them looked like what they look like these days in the museums and stuff. So
Yeah, that's a great example.
It is, and that's just one simple example. And what I've realized is, go on with it. Otherwise, I'll rant.
How do you have any like tricks to go astral for someone who's never done it? What's like some tiptoeing into the water? Because like I don't really meditate or anything, but I like to go out of my body. I like and I'd also be interested in what your thoughts are on how psychedelics fit in with astral travel and things like that.
Yeah, look, I don't even drink black tea. For some reason, I was obsessed with being clear, but a lot of friends have been telling me about ayahuasca and to try that experience. So I've never tried psychedelics, but I think from what I've heard and what I've researched, very, very similar. I think some of the phenomenon that you'll get into. So I think it is a DMT experience, because you often feel the sensation of almost a dripping in the head. I know it's a kind of a weird thing. It's like in the middle of your head, you feel like coins dropping. And that's how it feels. It's a very pleasant feeling, and I would suggest that was DMT in the pineal gland or the gland. Definitely, I tend to feel it's definitely that kind of stuff. So, one trick then is to decalcify it. It would seem that the mainstream would be wishing that gland not to be particularly active. To put it mildly. So, like we've got fluoride in the water here. So, like I drink water out of the water out of the ground, spring water. So ways of looking at what foods and drinks can help you. I think psychedelics definitely play a role. The fact that they've been clamped down so much by society, and this compared to why not alcohol being clamped down. So I think, but even when you look, it's fascinating because when you look into the shamanic principles even behind alcohol originally, the whole notion of alcohol was inhibition losing, but also, this is way back, was that the character that would come over you when you're intoxicated meant that was something that you were to work on. Like it was, if you're an angry drunk or if you're a very friendly drunk. So yeah, and I've researched some shamanic stuff because so much of the experiences I've had have been like with American Indians, which I've had no conscious interest. Even it was just fascinating to have these rituals on lakes with American Indians, with other naked astral people. I mean, just absolutely bizarre and ecstatic kind of dancing. And I'm not into that. As I said, I'm a pretty I'm not a conventional person anymore. But I would have said I'm just sort of, I don't know. I just was never really into that. So I think definitely
that was in the astral realm, or is that just an interest in that?
No, in the astral realm. That was when. So generally, something will grab my interest. I like that particular astral experience. A vibration would come, and I'll get back to those tips to get out of the body. But often you're taken out of the body with vibration. So one real good thing to do is to practice listening. Like when you're falling asleep, keep your ears engaged. Imagine listening around your body. Often you'll hear tones. Like once it's astral being, I've got these astral guides that have been there a bit. They showed me to listen to these tones above the head, which can help you out of your body. So this particular experience with the Native Americans was amazing. The vibrations came, and I felt myself lifted out of the body. That is another signature of the astral experience. You feel yourself lifted. You know your body's sleeping. You feel this vibration, and you feel yourself lifted out with the vibration. So it's like you're raising to that vibration. Yeah. And then this kind of like fog cleared, and I heard this boom, 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 really deep drums. Beautiful lake in front of me, amazing pines, mountains in the background, very much kind of a Northern American, Canadian experience. Yep. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is beautiful. The drums are really beating in the heart, and the heart seems to often beats hard when you leave the body. So they even say the astral body is the fourth body of the human energy system, which correlates with the fourth chakra of the heart. So there is something in that. Anyway, I'm out there and I'm thinking, wow, but the beating is quite full on. So there's a level of kind of quasi fear, thinking what's happening. I know I'm out of my body, but this is very real. Then I see these people. The lake's all of a sudden frozen, and I see these people winding along the lake very quickly to me. And then as they get closer, I notice they're Native Americans, and they're beating drums. But when I see them close up, they're smiling at me. Then all of a sudden, I'm on the lake. Often in the astral you travel and you're naked or you're dressed in an appropriate attire, depending where you are. And I'm out on this lake, and the drums are in a circle. There's all these other, we're looking at each other, and it seems we're all these other people going astral. And we're dancing, and it's like, and it's in this moment, there's hours of this ecstatic dance and this connection, and I just can't, and you come out of it often with tears. Like that's where it is a spiritual thing. Like in the beginning, I was just doing. I was interested in the phenomenon of astral travel. I'd be getting out there, and I'd be going boo to people. I'd be doing all sorts of stuff because I didn't know what this was. But over time, it's shown itself to have some spiritual significance, and so often I'll research things after they happen. And like I've even heard the Om in the void. Where you go into this very dark space. Once again, mainstream says that dark is bad. I would say that's not the case. So I've been into spaces of nothingness, and you hear this tremendous lower Om, like it's an AUM, it's an Om. And like, wow, it's like, and it's before manifest reality. And I researched that years later. I'm not interested in Buddhism, and not interested in any religion, actually. And then it made sense that I heard their Om. It was just like a really low male sound, but octaves low and all pervasive Om. And, I don't chant. But you hear these things out there, and then you realize, okay. And then, you look into these things, and I've met a few Buddhist monks who agree totally with some of the experiences I've had. And and correlate with their own experiences of being out of body. And they do astral traveling. Australian Aboriginals do it as well. They call it something else, as most cultures do. So, it's the word astral comes from a Latin word astra, meaning star. So it is a star body. It is a body that we're able to use on a cosmological level, and all native traditions talk about it. The Sami in Scandinavia talk about it. I've met some people there, and in the Western society, we're very much taught to be afraid of the dark. Think of a little kid has an experience, maybe they see something, and then the night light is put on, and it's like, oh, don't worry about that. We'll leave the light on. It's not really talked through. So now I'm when I do workshops, I'm meeting a lot of parents who are saying their kids are having these experiences, and it's great because now they're able to help the kids and not shut it down, and not necessarily send your kids to school where it's going to be programmed out of you. So what I've realized, a lot of this astral stuff, and how to get there is deprogramming all the whole time. I'm deprogramming. So often to get back to your question about how to get there, I do meditate a few times a day. What I mean by that is I just kind of go into that kind of nice feeling of non-condition. What I mean is feeling good for no reason, and it can sound cliched and glib, but it's really powerful, because what I've found is that the human experience is very much powered by emotions. The emotions are very much pushed by the mainstream, therefore emotions aren't what it's about. And I realize that you've got to burn that emotional charge. If something makes you feel great because you got it, or something like this, you're going to flip. That's because that can be taken away from you at any moment. So you've got to, coming out of the astral, you just often feel absolutely amazing. But it's a really deep, it is an ecstatic feeling, and that's touching base with that again and again is more likely to get you out. And I think that's probably what psychedelics can do as well.
Yeah, and vibrations. I get that whole thing about the chanting. I mean, the monks were probably doing that with their chanting, and I've had that emotional experience through sound workshops and sound healing and that type of thing, and I mean drumming. I mean, we joke about it on the show, but I was bawling in a concert with in a drum solo, and something about the vibrations of the drum and the way it was professionally and artistically done, it just had me bawling. But I wasn't, obviously able to go astral there, and then this other workshop where I had didgeridoos and a bunch of other instruments that got my physical body and that bliss state active, and my chakras were spinning. Like, it was that substantial that I physically felt this. But I was trying to go astral then, and then I didn't, but I understand what you mean about the whole sound and the emotion and all that. Like, I feel like I was almost there, maybe, or close to it, but at least I mean, or maybe I need to experience it in the physical realm first or something. But yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
It is. Well, what I think is, when I look back to why it started happening to me, because sometimes I think people say, why did it start happening? As a classical musician, I got introduced into meditation early on. It was kind of there was a guy, his name was Ainsley Mears. He was an Australian psychiatrist who'd gone to the East, and he'd written a book, Relief Without Drugs. It was I think he'd written it in the 60s. It was sort of a pretty relaxed kind of book, bringing the whole Eastern philosophy, but very much in a Western context. And what I found was I could if I just relaxed my body, so it was very much focused on relaxing the parts of the body, and then relaxing the mind, as in like putting the mind into bubbles or anything you were thinking of. And then kind of just seeing what was there, It wasn't so much agenda driven. I think a lot of so returning to that. So I found it was amazing that I could be really tense, going to go on stage and perform or something, and I was really freaking out, Still a student at that stage, a tertiary student, and I thought, well, I can't do this because this is taking a massive toll on me, and I think I was pretty sensitive as it was, and I found that after 10 minutes of meditation, I could play better. I could play better music. I just was more focused and felt more in the zone. So I kind of became obsessed in getting in the zone, if you like. So getting in the zone meant I realized a lot of the emotional debris getting rid of. So that was also like, if I was, like, I remember a mate of mine at that stage was dating a girl I liked, but I'd gotten sick, so I didn't have the chance to date her first, and I got really. I remember this is really for these little inconsequential things seemingly now, but they were pivotal. I remember just meditating for 10 minutes, being really angry, and when you're early 20s and the whole relationship thing, and I was just so seething at my mate for having asked this girl out when I was sick, and I just thought after 10 minutes I could just let it go. I just felt really relaxed, body relaxed, and I thought, hey, this is ridiculous. This just doesn't touch me anymore. And even when I was really happy because of something, I would also meditate because I thought that's imbalance as well, because I know it's going to, like a big coffee hit, it's going to hit me. And so I did get a little obsessed in that, not for any spiritual thing, whatever, but just because I thought, well, this is fascinating. What are we? I just really liked the space it took me. I really liked that kind of intimacy with myself, that kind of
equanimity. I mean, that's what the Buddhists talk about, right? It's,
yeah. That really resonated with me. I just loved it. And then if I go to my very first experience, happened not until 1999. I remember I was living in Austria, and I remember I'd been to a craniosacral person because I'd had a shoulder injury, and she was an energy healer as well. I never come across that, and she got rid of the shoulder injury I had, and I thought, well, what have you done? And she said, you had a block. And she was kind of quiet like that, and I was kind of a kind of person who needed. Once again, another conspiracy. When I researched the word cynic is actually a seeker of the truth. It was a movement of people seeking the truth, whereas now it's been disparaged so much. A cynic is somehow interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so I was very much someone based on what I experienced, was truth for me. And I said, what do you mean you got blocks? She said, yeah, you're human, you got blocks. And I said, well, let's look further into this. And I had about 5 sessions with her because I actually got fascinated. I had a lot of energetic stuff going on, and I copped a bit of physical abuse as a kid, so I think a lot of that was coming out. Like I remember my solar plexus really going mental, and I sort of, automatically kind of went into a ball and turned on my side and started screaming obscenities just out. And I remember the practitioner sort of backed away from the table thinking, easy, okay. But it was just this feeling of letting out of energy, and I saw all these memories. So I think this kind of primed me for the astral experience. Then I've got to tell you, this was a fascinating experience. So this woman said, look, I think you've had an issue storing aggression. Probably as a kid you weren't allowed to express yourself, when you were being hit and stuff. And so she said, look, I'm going to you haven't stored it correctly in your gums. So she puts her fingers into my mouth, fingertips against my gums. And I'm thinking, well, this is pretty weird. First of all, I never went to see her wash her hands after the last client. So, and then that night, I kid you not, I remember my gums were burning. I remember burning. I was just thinking, what is going on? I could feel this kind of a lot of guys have really big jaws, and that's the notion they've stored too much aggression there, if you like. So I was just letting it out, and I wasn't able to store it and process it. So anyway, my gums were killing me. Next morning I wake up, there is this is when it all started. There's a translucent black wolf in front of me. It's got green eyes and it's growling. And I'm looking, this is with me for two full days and nights. So I'm having to operate in this reality looking through a translucent black wolf.
Wow.
Black-faced with a grey chin, and I knew exactly it was there in front of growling. Now, what had led to me after the second night of this black wolf looking at me, I basically broke down. I remember my girlfriend at the time was great. She said, it's okay, I'll keep an eye on you, just don't do anything or whatever. And I was freaking out, and this was the first kind of touch of this. I hadn't seen that it was, of course, as a result of this aggression thing. I was just going with what it was. I had a great fight with my flatmate at the time over a power bill. This guy, because we were living out in the snow in Austria, and he had a greenhouse, and it was thousands of euros. Anyway, I had a really good argument. In the past, I hadn't argued too well, and I'd sort of, when you can't quite express yourself under pressure. And after this argument with this guy, the black wolf licked my face and went to the corner, and I realized, okay, it's not against me. Soon after that, I had my first astral experience where, and not only this, within a week of seeing that black wolf, this woman I meet in Vienna, I'm living in Austria, presents herself to me, and she's wearing a T-shirt with the same wolf on her shirt, exactly the same wolf. And my whole body goes into, that kind of, and really those astral vibrations, you really get there, it's like pins and needles on steroids. It's like that kind of. And I just said, "Whoa!" The wolf. I said, "What do you do?" And she said, "I'm a Reiki master." And I said, "What's Reiki?" And then that was how I ended up. That's how I ended up getting into energy healing. So it sounds weird. That's very obtuse. And I found in the astral this synchronicity. You wouldn't even. It's so obtuse. It's like if you were working that out from above, it's lame. Like no one would go with that plan. They go, doesn't quite click. We've got to have something more logical. So we often look for very logical things here, and whereas it's beyond that, it's sort of cellular. But that was how. And then the very first, I'll tell you, the very first astral experience happened not long after that, and I was just asleep. Before dawn is normally when it happens, and I'm just lying there on my back. Apparently, I realized that when I woke up. But then this light comes to my forehead, and I'm thinking, well, I'm living in this apartment that is almost subterranean. It's sort of a mezzanine apartment. It couldn't be the sun because you got to go to the window and look up to look at the sky. But I'm that lucid. I'm thinking, okay, there's this light coming at me, but it's I knew it was just before dawn, and it sort of came right into my forehead, and then it seemed to bring all these triangles. Triangles often figure in the astral, and it was like all of the electrostatic energy behind my eyelids kind of came together, formed triangles, and came into this sort of this kind of circle of light, and then this wind started in my ears. Often in the astral, you get astral wind, and then it came into my heart as well and made me feel great. Like it came in and just went, and I felt amazing. And then there was no voice, but there was a feeling of, do you want to come with me? Do you want to come with us? Whatever that was. I just thought, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. And next thing, this wind really gets strong, and I'm going through like a wormhole. Now, even the expression wormhole, I hadn't heard at that stage. There is another synchronistic thing a few days after that, and I'm pulled into this kind of sectioned, very quick. What it would be a wormhole. That's the best way of describing it. Very, very fast, and I'm without anybody at all. This is how it started. And then at some stage, I think, well, this is amazing, but when can I get off? And then I get off, and I'm hovering in the atmosphere. I'd be about, I don't know, 100 meters in the sky of this atmosphere. And I'm looking at these very modern buildings. It's not Earth. They're these very tall towers that open up into like disc shape at the top. Hundreds of windows. All of these buildings, they're fixed from what I see to the ground they're on. It's like a desolate reddish soil planet, and it's sort of dusk. It's hyper real. And now, even in the very beginning, I wasn't so much interested in the content. I was interested in the state of being. That probably helped me because I was not searching for anything. I just thought, wow. And so I'm looking at, and some of these lights are on, some lights are off on these buildings, and I get this very, very clear feeling or kind of a message that there are others. That was, and I wasn't a sci-fi watcher. Not interested in aliens. I still haven't seen all of the Matrix trilogy. I'm not. That is not me by nature. But it was very much a feeling of there are others. Now, and I come back from this experience very blissful in my heart, feeling amazing. Tears of ecstasy. I awake, and I knew when it started that my body was asleep and I was hyper awake, and I knew there was something profound had happened. Now, once again, a few days later, not a week later, walking past a video store in Vienna, and I see the movie Contact. Now, if anyone's ever seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, great movie. I watched this movie and I was brought to tears when she's going down a wormhole.
Yeah,
very similar experience. It was a first contact experience for her in the movie. And I tell you, it just, my whole body, once again, like the wolf, just went crazy. And I realized it was, there is an ET association with the astral experience, and it was definitely a first contact experience. Absolutely amazing. Blew me away.
Yeah. Wow. That's what one of our friends of the show was in one of our chat rooms recently, and he's asking about entities that you've seen, and because he's I think encountered some beasties in that realm. and and it kind of bleeds into another question I want to ask about people. You know, you mentioned being afraid of the dark, and there's people that have real encounters with something in the night, like succubus or incubus or anything like that. I mean, do you have any? I don't even know what the question is really. Just comments on how to deal with those things, or did you encounter anything like that?
Negative entity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was. Look, I tell people when they say, "Oh, that's scary," because I think I know a lot of the courses I do, most people are freaking out because they might have had a field of experience. Like, I remember one time I kind of woke up in my astral body, and while I was in bed, and there was this woman on top of me going for it, and she was in this yellow leather, and there's this other black leather woman that was screaming, and I recognized it to be, a succubus kind of thing. And as soon as I saw her and looked at them and was conscious of them both, they both got a shock and flew out. And that often happened at the beginning. And also little monsters appearing at the end of the bed. Look, I used to swear at them. I used to flick them aside. You find yourself saying weird things like in the name of Jesus, all this sort of stuff. It all happened. It's all there. In the lower astral, what we term the lower astral, so you've got, my perception is this. In this 3D realm, which time is very much one of the defining factors of it, when you vibrate at an oscillation that is higher than this realm, you go into through the low densities. Okay. Those low densities have really been loaded by certain entities, by fears of humankind. They're really loaded to keep people too frightened to have this experience. Constantly fed through emotions. A lot of ghosts are there. Oh, and look, I was freaked out for ghosts a long time. Like, give me a monster, give me an ET any day, but don't give me a ghost. For a long time, that freaked me out. For some reason, and I think that was the connotation of programming of ghosts as a kid. Maybe. So you get out into these what we call lower realms, and all of these myths, like these fairy tale monsters, they're all there. Dragons, and it's. And the funny thing is, I'm not into computer games. I remember once getting obsessed in Mario Brothers for one weekend. That was it. Just did me. I just got obsessed for 48 hours and never did them again. Super Mario Brothers game, And
was it number 3?
Like, oh Jesus, I don't even know what years ago.
That one.
Oh man, I remember my girlfriend saying, "Greg, you got to get off that." I was house sitting a place in Vienna. It was a sensational apartment. And I just was out, a beautiful apartment. I thought, let's get on. They've got Mario Brothers on this massive TV, before massive TVs with a Norman. I'm going, this is sensational. She said, Greg, you've been on there for 8 hours. We've got to go home. I said, no, leave me alone. She was good. She just leave me alone. 48 hours. Did it, gone. Very addictive. But it's a little bit like that. It's almost like, I hate to say, but almost like levels, like what can you hack, and I think if I smack my head in the door frame, that's more of a shock than seeing a monster. The taxation system is scarier than an ET. That's how I put it. So we put up with so much stuff, yet we're scared of this little stuff. Now, where it all got to was this. As I said in the astral, I would come across these entities, and there was kind of a low vibration and a bit scary because it's full on in your face, like rah at the end of the bed, or I got to a case where I was coming out of body, and I was in the void, and there was this woman, look, she was she showed herself as a more feminine being than a male being, and she kind of like a Medusa, she had this. Once again, I've researched this later. She had this like hair that was made of, her skin was made of maggots, and the astral smell is strong, and her stench was off. She was vile. Her face was like, the eyes were moving like. Any horror flick you've seen, and I don't see horror flicks, times a million, it was horrifying. I'm out there night after night, and this being is opposite me, and we're both hovering in the void, and she's throwing balls of energy at me and hitting me, and I'm waking up in pain. Enough pain I could cope with, but enough to wake me up and to go, ooh, that hurts. And I thought, okay, 3 things here, or 3 things. Either one, I'm going mad, or 2, I've got to get help, or 3, I'll just keep on battling. So this happened for a while. What I found, someone said it sounds like Buffy the Dragon Slayer, and I said, well, I don't watch the show, but that's interesting that a show who's about this kind of thing. And I'm out there, and I learned that I could. So the balls of energy were coming in. I learned I could kind of muster up these balls of energy, and kind of like a meteor strike. I could kind of meet hers before they hit me. I couldn't hit her directly, but I could stop her from hitting me. This went on night after night. Like, I'm talking for, say, 5 nights. So as soon as I'd fall asleep, then maybe before dawn, the vibrations will come. I'd be in the void. There she is.
Yeah.
Were you like scared to go to sleep or anything like that? Was it like traumatic at all?
Or was it fun? Like,
were you like, I'm going to get this bitch tonight? Liu Kang style, like Street Fighter.
A bit of that, because I tried the whole FU approach with her, and it wasn't working. So I thought, because that did work to some degree with some, you're just saying piss off, whatever. But anyway, then this woman, she said to me, Greg, you're getting good at the whole defending thing, aren't you? And then we kept fighting again. I thought, well, she knows my name. In the Astral, I often call you by name. And I thought the whole defending thing. And I remember thinking during the day, the defending thing? What does she mean by that? And anyway, I'm out there again, and then her face is right by mine. And it sounds, once again, cliched. It's funny because anything often that is that does go into spiritual things is often poo-pooed, I think, by the mainstream, because it is actually something worth. But anyway, she's right by me, and it's disgusting. I thought I'm going to pass out astrally, because this is a disgusting creature. The eyes, the pupils are moving. And then all of a sudden, it's not a conscious decision. This is what I mean by acting from being, not doing. So my heart does feel a wave of empathy for her. It wasn't a conscious decision. I don't know why I felt that, because she was very disgusting, and she freaked the shit out of me. And but I felt this relaxation in my heart, and her face changed to absolute radiance. Just the classic kind of beautiful, kind of like just a beautiful
like
kind of
Mary Magdalene kind of thing, or
what?
It was. I know. And then she said to me, Greg, you see, it's all the same. And I remember thinking, coming out of that experience and knowing that there was no such thing as evil. Not that I've even given much thought to evil, and ever since then I haven't been hassled.
It's just and it does sound cliche, but like, again, like to have that love in your heart, or love the enemy, all that deep religious stuff, it seems to come around and sort of make sense.
Yeah, but Nazareth
it does kind of make sense. Yeah, I think it does, and I think that's what can often scare people off at this notion of, that sounds a bit do-gooder or whatever. But as I said, it wasn't a conscious. I really think we're taught as beings to be intellectual. I realize the intellect has nothing to do with it. I realize we're intellectually programmed at school, and I think that's not the right way. I think, for instance, one of my first experiences in the Astral, these guides were taking me out, and this woman, anyway, the end of the experience, she showed me the energy systems, and I hadn't heard of the aura or chakras, and she was showing me all these things. I thought, wow, that's amazing. And so you can actually see them. So the astral body is kind of lit up by this light and these energy vortexes. So a lot of the astral experiences, you can bring them on through doing chakra breathing. It's very real, and I wouldn't have believed that had I not heard, even the word chakra. Like, she used expressions that I wasn't a New Ager. I still wouldn't call myself a New Ager, but she, so the energetic. Why am I talking about that?
I wanted to expand on your part about you not consciously making that decision about opening your heart, but you were contemplating the question. You were consciously that day saying, like, what does she mean by defending? Like, I think you almost opened yourself up to the next level of solution or whatever, and that must have been now you know that, okay, no more defending. How can I open myself up or something? So you're in defense mode, and then you said, well, that's not working now. What does she mean by that? And you kind of open yourself up. So and then I wanted to ask a little bit more about advice for somebody that's having those low density, lower astral realm encounters with succubus, that type of thing, or even maybe this friend of ours who's traveling and meeting beasties and stuff. It doesn't sound like he's scared of them necessarily, but can they then try and increase their vibration and get to a higher realm, or can they meet these? Are they stuck in the lower realm, or can they meet these monsters in a higher realm where they can accept them or fight them or push them off? I mean, because I know people that just can't get out of this situation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it has to do with what I've realized. A really good training ground for the astral is this reality, the 3D reality, because for me, because these other realities are more real, as in your mind's more focused, your sense of smell, hearing, sight, everything, no comparison. So for me now, when I realized that 3D reality is a pale realm, it didn't, for a little while I was, like I'd come home, I just want to go astral, but when I came to realize that we can influence this realm from that realm directly, which is one of the really good applications of astral travel in terms of healing, and in terms of positive stuff, you tend to get promoted or helped. But I would then use this realm to prepare me. So every day I'm preparing for my sleep. Just as in this lifetime, I'm preparing for my death. So every day, every time you go to sleep is a mini death. So what I'll do during the day is, more and more I find I'm only mixing with really nice people because of what I do. And a lot of people said, "Oh, you're probably going to mix with a lot of fruitcakes," because when I wrote this book a few years ago, and that was my coming out. I hadn't talked about my astral experiences openly with friends even until I wrote that book. And what I found is quite the opposite, is that people are really nice. And for instance, I remember meeting a politician who I wasn't particularly enamored of their politics in Australia a few years ago. And I thought, I'll give it to him. I'll give him a few questions. I met the guy, and when I met him, and then once again, it sounds cliched, I just saw, what a lovely bloke. I thought, why am I thinking, what a lovely bloke? What the hell? I was really pissed off at myself, It was a while back, and I just sort of looked into his eyes and had a chat, and I just thought, no, not going to get into a battle here. I just thought, we're all, it's kind of like after the battle, we're all arm in arm saying, that was pretty funny, wasn't it? So I know that sounds pretty detached, but I think...
I think the world needs a lot more of that, to be honest. I think that's more the way we should be heading.
Well, I think so, and it doesn't mean you're going to be a passive... I mean, no, it's good to... I love to bliss out, don't get me wrong, but I find when you start to genuinely kind of see yourself in others, or when you see that we're all going through this bloody weird experience that does have a lot of forces manipulating us as well. So you kind of let people off the hook a bit, and even monsters, I've seen the funniest things. So I think if people use this 3D reality as training ground for the astral, so I do all the time. I'm constantly looking at my energies. If I'm going into, it's a sticky reality, this 3D, so I will use, white light, violet flame, blue light around me. I will use some of these things. I know it sounds defensive, but I see it as more it's kind of promoting my energy, because it's a sticky reality. A lot of people unconsciously are carrying stuff. What I found is if I'm in a shopping centre, if I do put just a bit of protection around myself, I would call it empowerment. I find that people's eyes and my eyes are less likely to make unconscious connections. So what happens is, I've analysed what actually happens physically. So if I'm going, and why is something to get drained? Yeah. So the eyes are very powerful chakras. Yeah. So say you're in a shopping centre, people walk past you. Shopping centre, once again, a lot of the stuff there is materially based. We know all that. I like my stuff. I've got a levitating moon on my table right next to me. I mean, but I'm not too obsessed. And of course, I know it has its limitations, but you're walking past people who have their own dramas, and you often get that little glimpse of the eye. They don't even know what's happening, but there's this unconscious energy current going between you, so you can feel drained after it. So I found that when I put some light around me, and obviously this light does carry stuff, because if you're in the astral and you call for white light, it's actually very powerful, even though it is a program as well. So I found that I'm less drained. So anything that helps you, like a bath in salt water. If I feel that I'm particularly heavy, like as I said, every night is a mini death. When I go to bed at night, I want to be as conscious as I can when I go to sleep. I want to feel as good as I can. I don't want to take other people's trauma with me. So if I feel there's something really heavy there, I will command from the God being within me to leave me.
Yeah.
And I will often feel it wriggle out. I will feel something wriggle out. Now, so there are beings in the lower astral that are kind of, little energies that are jumping in occasionally, like even certain emotions are energies. You think of what is a spirit, so, and it's they get into a person because they can be focused at. People look at them. Some mannequins have got energies in them, or certain objects, because those objects are getting attention from humans. So that's why those objects are. Every object has some energy anyway. But I found I'll ask it to leave me, and I'll really sense into what is not me. So constantly during the day, not as a chore, but more as a game, I will constantly rid myself of what is not me. So that by the time I go to bed, I feel pretty good. And then if I want to go astral, I kind of relax my body as much as I can and then put that intention out. So I find if you're as clear as you can be when you go to bed, and meditating during the day helps you not be quite so tired at night. Because, a lot of people, they go to work, they have a drama, they come home, they turn TV on and they put more drama before they go to bed. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it really is programming. It's just programming the drama, the relentless drama. And on that note, what I found is lucid dreams are an incredible tool also into the astral. Now, I've been lucid quite a bit. What I find early on is I'd have a lucid dreams and I would think, oh, I can control the dream. Then I got to the point, it first happened, I was first woken up to this in an astral experience. I was in the astral, and these two guys, I just read my book, whatever, and I was about to fly over this beautiful kind of molten lake in the astral, which you often get presented with these beautiful kind of silver lakes. And I was about to go over it, and there was these two guys behind me, and I thought, this is interesting. There's a bit negative charge there, and I'll always confront it. So I turned around, and they were sort of coming at me. I thought, okay, I could fly away, or I won't. And they said, "Oh, you're having a samsara moment, huh?" And I thought, what's all this about? What is this samsara? I didn't know what samsara meant. Anyway, I let them come toward me, and they started to destroy me. Now, it sounds pretty weird. Once again, forget the logical go. As they did, they looked kind of shocked, and I felt this incredible bliss, this incredible ecstasy. And they kind of look at me going, what the hell? Then I thought, okay, next time I'm in a dream, I will try something different. So I'm in a dream, and there's this protagonist. I see it as an aspect of my psyche, coming toward me, pretty angry. And I just sort of let him sort of come toward me and kind of merge with me. And once again, I felt this ecstasy. So I learned in dreams, if there's a drama, I'm absolutely passive. If I'm about to crash the car, I allow the car to crash. I had one classic one where not that long ago, I'm about to crash into a cliff going too fast. And I said to my wife next to me, I knew I was dreaming, and I said, sorry, as I went into the cliff. And as I kind of, went through the cliff, and I could feel this incredible bliss once again. So, if you get lucid in a dream, let the worst case scenario happen. And more, I let the drama go
first?
No, that's weird. That's what I've been
just to make sure you're not like awake and you just dozed off for a second.
But it doesn't matter. I know what you're saying, but this phenomenal charge,
or you just know in your deeper self that it's not real, right? Yeah.
No, because that's what happens with my lucid dreams blend into real dreams because I actually don't try and control it. I just go with the flow a little bit. And then it almost blends into a real dream that's just sort of a cool dream. Like I just kind of go along with it, but then I kind of lose that lucidity, and it just becomes.
The ditch on your way to work tomorrow.
Yeah,
like, oh man, I hit the ditch. I thought I was dreaming.
So I totally get what you're saying, because I'm fascinated enough with the dreams that I'm
you were
enjoying
flicking
the
light switches
adventure,
at work forever, right? That was I was
trying to. Am I dreaming? And all. Trying to train yourself through the day to become lucid by habit.
Absolutely. It's a great that's a great lever. I mean, I will look. A little bit like I was saying before about this, we know when there's no evil kind of thing. And you're right, I kind of carried that with me during the day when I was thinking defense. I think to walk around like a question mark the whole time is good, in a playful way. So I'm constantly questioning this reality at all times. I'm constantly looking at what is this reality, the leaves moving, I'm constantly questioning. And I think that, and I'm asking myself, am I awake now? What does that awake actually mean? And then when you're in a dream state, if you do ask yourself, are you awake in terms of, 3D or sleeping, So what I realize is there's a glitch built into our program to let us know if we're in a dream. Now, I feel that, and just the same way, often in the astral, I would hear my higher self talk to me. I call him my higher self because he has my own voice often, and he speaks through a kind of resonator, and he knows more than I know about stuff. So I mean, the higher self is a loaded expression, but I would say he's a higher realized aspect of me, and I feel he's wanting me to wake up. And the same way, the Aboriginals here talk about the dream time. And more I realize, geez, they're onto something here. This is just a dream time. So I want my own dream self to wake up. And so I'm pulling that through the realities to me. And at the same time, that is helping me wake up to the higher aspect of what I am. So I see the whole thing as preparation for not coming back into amnesia. That doesn't mean you don't necessarily have to be totally inert to what's going on. I think, as I said, raising vibration and working with that in this realm is going to help things. But I realize it's not going to be through the fight. Like often we're taught, resistance. We're taught to be angry. It's almost like the mainstream. Think of how many revenge movies there are. From Mad Max to.
Those drive me nuts. It's okay to kill. It's okay to kill 200 people because somebody killed your son or whatever. Like where's the fucking? Where does it even out there?
Bad people.
That's right, and it's just
built into our culture that it's okay to get revenge and kill, but it's not okay for them to kill people you love.
I mostly just watch
that's right.
BBC documentaries over and over and over again if my TV's on. But shit's getting killed on there all the time too, man. I'm watching shit rip other shit apart.
Oh yeah, and we know there's something compelling. I remember even years ago, I was living in Spain. I remember watching the Revenge series because we had ABC on the American ABC on, and I remember it just went on and on and on. And I thought it is fascinating though, this whole archetype of revenge within us. Like, so many movies get us fired up, like, yeah, and what is it that we're so pissed off about? So it's kind of it's just the archetype and the energies. And what I realize more and more is that emotions, the emotional body around the human being, particularly working as a Reiki person, energy healer, I realize is kind of like an imposter. It's kind of like very much connected to the karmic experience, that is good, that is bad, reward, punishment. And that is very much bringing us back again and again. So I feel that and this is getting pretty heavy and spiritual, I guess, but I feel that for humans to kind of evolve to another vibratory step, we've kind of got to let go of that emotional thing. It doesn't mean you're going to be cold-hearted. And I say this because I used to have these elevators that rock up at the end of the bed, and often in my astral experiences, they'd have chapters. Like I go through chapters of the same experiences, kind of, but with, like similar beings. And I remember this elevator would be at the end of my bed. I get in the elevator, literally felt like an elevator. I leave my body behind, get in the elevator, and go up the elevator, and these eyes would look at me at levels, sometimes pairs of eyes, and it was like they were. I remember being pissed off, thinking, these spiritual. What do they call them? Outside discotheques, bouncers. It was like they were spiritual bouncers, testing my level. And I remember I'd come out and I'd meet with these guys. And when I first met them, I thought they were cold-hearted. They actually looked human, but they weren't. And we'd always talk through the top of the head. And I thought it was interesting. So it was very telepathic. In fact, all of the creatures I've spoken with, it's not verbal. And then I think, geez, the whole intellect, talk, talk isn't even a human sense. We've got 5 senses. Where does talk come into it? It's like, what is this whole intellect thing and talk? So what I find is I would meet with these people around the table. They didn't seem to be particularly, lovey-dovey in that kind of ha-ha kind of way. And I found they talk on issues, and I had no idea what they were talking about. I understood their words; it would come into English, but I just had no idea. I remember it came around to me, and I remember it was my turn to talk. And I remember thinking, shit, what am I going to say? I've got no idea what I'm going to say, and I was panicking, And then all of a sudden, this incredible calmness and these words came out. I mean, and I talked about the situation on Earth, about the unequal distribution of resources. And I talked for some length. You would call it quasi-political. I don't know what you call it. Something that I hadn't actually engaged with on an intellectual level or consciously. And I thought, this is interesting. So they were just kind of, these beings were kind of, sounds negative, but they were not sucking, but we were connecting. What was coming out of me was just the information that was there.
Yeah, were they pulling it out, or were you sending it out?
Was it some sort of fuel?
Yeah.
Were they using it to fuel something?
It was like they were pulling it out. And this often happened even when I meet kind of non-human looking beings. And I just thought, wow, that's absolutely fascinating. And when I felt pretty good with these beings after a while, and I realized that it wasn't so much that they were heartless. They didn't have emotional bodies. So when you looked at them, they kind of had nothing. There was more transparency, so you could look straight into their eyes. There was no kind of layers. There was no ego, I guess you could say, on a simplistic level. There was nothing, no defense. There was no fear programming. And so they didn't, once I asked an ET, like a grayish kind of character, they're not all bad. They're actual artificial intelligence, from what I found, as we are. That's the deep end. But what I found was, I said, why, how come you don't, the questions that came out were fascinating. One of my questions was to this kind of grayish being, why do you have no sense of humor? And he said, and often they'd speak, and it's like through a resonator, and it's a language I don't understand, but then my brain translates it. So it was like a, and the words were, because we don't need a coping mechanism. And I just thought, because you don't need a coping mechanism. And I thought, that's interesting. That's why they say they have no humor. So I found these beings before that looked like us but weren't humans and who talked telepathically. They just didn't have that coping mechanism. And I found after a while I actually really liked them. And I remember I didn't want to leave. The last time I was with them, I said I'm not going back. That was when I had still a bit of resistance to this realm, and it was really funny. And they said, "Oh, look, you'll be back soon. Get over yourself. You're okay," kind of stuff. And they kind of kicked me into the vortex, if you know what I mean. Like, you're sucked back into your body. But I found a lot of people tell me on another theme that it can be dangerous to go astral. I've tried everything. If it's your time to go, it's your time to go. You are connected to your body, and you know it. If your body is in any kind of danger, not even danger, if there's noise in your physical environment, you get pulled back.
Yeah.
If there's something that, so what's going on. No one's going to body snatch you. If you're probably a schizophrenic or prone to psychotic episodes, I probably would do these exercises, but then you wouldn't do that anyway. That's, why would you do that? So,
well, what about the silver cord thing? I mean, we did have an episode where we talked about, death by the cutting of the silver cord.
Yeah. If it's your time, it's your time. I mean, if you really want to do it, you do it. There does seem to be cords to the chakras. I found that it can be maybe the third eye, or the astral experience. I think the cords are actually to do with the wormholes and to do with the chakras, and they take you to different dimensions. So I think you have different experiences depending on which kind of chakra you leave.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So how frequent are we talking about now in your normal life or the last few years? Like, is this like a daily, a weekly thing, and then sort of expanding on that part of it, just to give people some context over your training sessions and actually pulling people into doing these techniques? Is it like what kind of success rate are we talking about, and how frequent will people start experiencing this?
What I found is about if there's like 10 people in a workshop, I found a couple of people will have experiences in the next few days after that.
Yeah.
So, because in the beginning, I remember when I came back to Oz after I read this book, and someone said, "Can you come and talk?" And I thought, well, I hadn't talked on the subject, and they said, "Oh, will you do workshops?" And I said, "I'm not sure if people can learn this," but I gave it a crack, and I found that you get a reasonable hit rate. And what I found is, because it's been so positive for those who've experienced it, it's worth it. So for me, in the beginning, it was happening a lot. Now, probably every couple of weeks. I don't really look for it, to be honest. A lot of people tell me that who I've met in workshops or whatever, they tell me, "Oh, Greg, like the other night, someone wrote me and said, 'Oh, you came and got me out of my body last night. Thanks.'" I don't remember doing that,
Right.
but I do often recall astral experiences, or I'm astral and I'm taking people out. So it seems that that's what I'm doing.
Since you've been training, maybe more of it's unconscious, or
more of it's unconscious.
Wow.
So it is interesting, and I think that, like, the fact is we've all got astral bodies that are doing stuff. Like early on, I remember going to these frequencies would come and they didn't sound too nice. Sound like a jet, like a that sort of fighter jet.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out with the vibration, and I'd see all these astral bodies, and we'd be going out onto these massive ships, like ships that are huge, and lots of astral bodies. And I had to really stay above it to stay conscious. Once again, this was like a chapter. I went out many times there. Now on these ships, they were kind of like I've got a Mac in front of me. You know that grey on the Mac, that kind of grey, kind of flat metal. It was that kind of colour, the ships inside, and the beings in there were tall. They had white hair, they had white skin, and they would have been over 7 foot. And they only talked telepathically. I remember it felt a bit weird. I remember once I would go through some corridors, and I found kind of like a circular door out, and it was onto some kind of grass. And I thought, well, why am I on land here? And this being came out, and he saw me. And he just looked at me, and once again, the resonator and the words that came through were, "Greg, you can leave whenever you want. You can even kill yourself, but we always have access to your power." And I thought, well, access to your energy. And I thought, well, that's pretty full on. And I remember I'd sort of try to tell people, well, we're on a ship here. This is pretty weird. We're being pulled out. It's not a particularly nice vibration. And I remember they feed us really well. They had massive tables. They had nice cutlery, nice food. And I remember one time I was there, it wasn't a conscious decision. I'd been going there a fair bit. I could hear a cow being slaughtered in the next room. I stood up, I slammed the table, and I said to everyone, "Where next?" And then when I went back, I was never invited back after that. They sort of looked at me, the whites, and it was a real feeling of, through our kind of complicit unconsciousness, if you like, our energy. It sounds negative out of context. It can sound very sinister, but I just think it's a recycling. So these energies have found a way of recycling our emotional energy, our kind of
fear, maybe?
Unconscious. Yeah, they recycle that. So I didn't choose to go with that vibration again. So often when I'm sleeping at night, I'm listening for vibrations. So you practice just listening for vibrations, like around you. Imagine that you're listening when you're awake. And these vibrations come, and then what I feel is these vibrations are actual beings. They're actually, well, think of the word. If something exists, it is, and therefore an is a being. So a being is an is. So these vibrations are actual beings taking you out. So the astral experience
it might be like you pulling your students out. Like maybe they can feel you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And often in the beginning, like the very first time I tried this was really funny. I was in Munich at the time, and I'd never actually been out in this reality. It was early on, I'd been out in other realities, but I wanted to be a ghost, in this reality. So I practiced, I sort of realized I was astral traveling and thought, okay, wow, you can go in this reality as well. This is cool. And so I practiced these exercises, basically to imagine yourself pulling out, to imagine yourself being, 6 feet above you, and, how it would feel to be in that body, and just to hold that for a while. Nothing happened. I was doing this all night. So, I'm pretty dogged. I was always crap at sleeping. So I could never fall asleep as a kid. I never understood how to fall asleep. So I don't mind doing stuff when I'm lying there. So I just imagine doing this. Nothing happened. Then in the night, I get up to go to the loo, and I'm walking to the loo in this hotel, turn around, I see myself lying in bed, and I think, holy shit, I'm out of my body. This is fantastic. And I'm disgusted by the physical form. This is an interesting one too. A lot of people have said that when the first time you see your physical self, it's like you see all of the you kind of see the alleged limitations, in the brow and the posture. You see the sense that you have failed somehow. That we're taught that I don't know. There's this human notion that we've fallen, and it's interesting programming that. And you realize it's rubbish because you just feel absolutely sensational. So I'm out. I thought, I don't want anything to do with the body right now. And this woman walks through the room and she's naked, and I say, who are you? And she says, I'm from England, and keeps walking. I'm in a hotel. So I go through the wall, and it takes me a bit to actually summon the energy to get through, because I think, how can I go through a wall? Eventually I get through the wall, I feel the wall, see these people lying in bed. This is the first time I saw astral bodies coming out of physical bodies. I take note of who is in these rooms, because the next morning I want to verify it at breakfast, which I do, because it's to see if the guests are the same.
Yeah, good.
A lot of these early experiences were verification. Then I find myself, okay, I want to pull my girlfriend out of her body back in Vienna. So I'm flying. I'm in the void. That's when I first did the Om. I'm thinking, whoa, this is huge. Then I'm flying over kind of the material realm. I'm stopped on above a tall skyscraper. I'm just looking at it, going, I have no idea why I'm here. Then I'm in the wall of the apartment, and Monica is now my wife. She's stuck by me through all this. I see her astral body. It's just sort of slightly out of sync with the physical, and I start to pull it out. And I say, Moni, you want to come for a fly, And she's going, yeah, sure. And she's kind of drunk. I start pulling it, and then it pulls back in. She goes, yeah, sure. And then she goes back to sleep. I say, you want to come? Yeah. She keeps going back to sleep. And when I've tried this on people I don't know, and I've gone into their rooms and tried to yank them out of their feet, by their feet. In the beginning, I would shock people in this reality to see how they react. I was wanting to see what went on. Once I was pulling someone out by their feet, and a being said to me, very nice person, very well dressed, good looking, I don't know what that's all about, just said, Greg, don't do that. And when I would also scare people in this reality, like once this guy was coming out of church, and I came down and went, boo, Allah. I said, Jesus loves you, or something ridiculous. And I wanted to see how they reacted. I noticed them stop and look around, and the guy said, Greg, stop doing that, will you? In a nice way, though. They're always
the same dude,
nice.
The same guy, or different guys, or just
same dude. Yeah, this is the same dude. He was just blonde dude.
Wow.
He's your guardian angel,
or
like an angelic person. I look at him and go, you look like Brad Pitt in that film. It was sort of like that kind of thing. Like, I don't know, it's really
Fight
weird.
Club.
And so I found also that building that I was stopped over. Once again, a few days later, I see a newspaper, and it was this skyscraper had just been built called the Millennium Tower in Austria, and they'd just been opened, and they took a photo from just above, and that was exactly the shot I saw. So
wow.
It was verification, and often in the weirdest ways. Like, why would you show them a skyscraper? I guess it was showing me that I was in Vienna, but it was often verification early on, and even I had just while we're talking experiences, one really pivotal early experience I had was, I wasn't into past lives. I wasn't. I was brought up a Catholic, but not practicing from age 10 or something, and not really into religion. But I never really thought of it, reincarnation. To be honest, I hadn't disbelieved it, but I just hadn't thought of it. But anyway, I'm going in the astral, and then I hear my voice. This is a classic one of my voice. Said, "I want to see me." So the vibrations come. I'm in the waiting room, if you like, with nothingness, and then all of a sudden I see me in front of me, as I was then a few years ago, and then the wind begins, and I get younger and younger, like a slideshow. Then and I end up becoming a baby and disappearing. And there's this old Chinese Mongolian guy, I just know he's Chinese Mongolian, and same thing, slideshow, gets younger, and the eyes stay in the same place throughout this whole process. Goes. Then there's this African kind of medicine man. He's right in my face, and he's wearing lots of stuff, and he's like in his 30s, getting younger, gone. Then there's this ET, like really sort of greeny, bluey dude, long face, freaky ass. Background is not Earth, and I just pull out of this because I'm thinking this is too much. I know I'm having some kind of astral thing, and as I pull out, I hear a voice say, "Intermission," and there is a bit of humor out there to help me through it, but that was the first realization that someone once again, not long after, said to Greg, I think that was a past life thing, and I felt my whole body, and I knew it. My body knew that. Oh wow, I've lived before. Yeah. And for me, that realization that I have actually lived before seemed to take a lot of the drama out of things. I thought, oh okay, so a lot of my feelings of whatever drama I've been experiencing aren't necessarily all from this lifetime, and it seemed to shed a lot of stuff. Hard to explain why.
Well, it's probably the same reason why people have healing just through recognizing past lives. I mean, they don't even know why or how it happens, but a lot of these people will spend 3 or 4 hours in a session, and just acknowledging that you had a past life somehow creates this healing effect. I wanted to ask you about technology and how that's benefiting it. We've had a couple people from the UK on about astral traveling and out-of-body experiences and using devices like the Pandora Star and all that. I noticed that's on your website, and we had the guy over here. We tried it out here a couple times at the studio, and the guy that runs our float tanks in Calgary there has a couple of them. So how's that been for people and yourself, and is there any other technologies you're using to help people along the way?
It's a good question. I think,
or maybe we should just mention what the Pandora Star is as well.
It's a light machine. So basically, strobing lights. Look, the first, I came upon this because 3 people in 2 days said, "Oh, have you heard about these lights?" I was talking about lights once again, and then I contacted the guy in Australia who had them, and he knew I did astral traveling. He said, "Look, I'm in Brisbane next weekend. Can I come and stay at your place and experiment on you?" And I thought, okay. So how I found it, my first experience with it was that, so it's like a strobe, just white lights, very quick, and the whole notion is that brain's measured in hertz. You put a frequency near your brain that is of a certain frequency, and your brain will vibrate in that frequency. So a little bit like, if you play the guitar, you pluck an A string, and someone else has got a guitar, their A string will vibrate. Resonance, That's what this reality is built on. That's why programming is so effective. From the, I keep on aiming that way. I guess the city's that way, mainstream. But what I found, this Pandora Star, the very first session I had, because I had about a 20-minute session, and then in the evening, and then that night when I slept, I mean, I'm kind of reasonably conscious when I sleep anyway. But what I found was, it was like I was kind of cocooned. It was like I was at the gate of my own sleep, not allowing any anxiety in. So it was like I was watching over my mind as I slept, and I thought that fascinating. I thought that's powerful. I thought I want to get me one of these, So, and I did. So what I found is I let people, because it's a tricky technology to kind of promote in many ways. So I'm kind of letting people experiment with it, and I found it makes you very relaxed. I think it's a workout for the brain. So I think the light is going in through closed eyes, and I think because of the different frequencies, I think certain parts of the brain are lighting up, which can't be a bad thing. So it's a little bit like if you go for a run, your body relaxes after having worked. So I think it kind of works the brain. I've even tried really hectic programs, and then I still find I sleep better after it. So I think it's kind of a massage, a workout and a massage for the brain. I know there are, funnily enough, there are some programs for astral traveling. I haven't actually tried them yet, but I'll get more into that. I found people also have had positive, whether or not they've actually experienced astral travel from it per se, I couldn't say. Too early. So even with workshops, when I take people through meditation, some people go out of body during the workshop, but generally it's things they can take home, so they can try. I mean, I'm not going to go astral with a guided meditation going on. I need silence. That's the way it works for me. So, but I think technology can play a role, because once in an astral, I woke up in the astral and I'm looking through my brain, and these laser lights are coming in, and it's really loud, like a dentist drill. I'm going, this is freaky, like bzzz, and I'm seeing these lights come in. I think this is freaky. Then all of a sudden, there's this little screen fitted, and I see the four corners and these little weird kind of hieroglyphs that seemed very ET going in the right corner of that. And then I'm showed all of these weird objects. And I remember someone made a noise, and I woke up in this reality. But I remember thinking, wow, there was definitely a feeling of ET technology interacting with my brain. I felt I was walking around. I'd often pop up in the astral. Once I popped up in Canada, in Vancouver, just popped up quite high, looking over. I could see the mountains, and I could see the city. And it was like I was a probe, and I realized that there are certain beings who were kind of seeing through me. And it can sound sinister out of context, but if a lot of people, what I feel is, if you just face the reality of one's experience, what I feel more and more is, when I've tried taking people out of body against their will, I get told not to do it. When people are taken onto spaceships, when they have a lot of astral experiences, or often you're taken out of body, these beings are able to kind of wake us up, move us into vibrational spaces. They've obviously had a hand in our creation. That's my feeling. That's where I get into this notion that we are kind of a form of artificial intelligence. The fact that you can put a frequency on a light and that your brain will match that frequency. I mean, yeah.
Couldn't that also mean it's all a simulation or some sort of holographic or on a hard drive?
More and more, I think so. I think if you take the emotional equation out of it, if you take, because it's so real in the astral, this just isn't real. I'm not belittling it. Like I see this reality as a game. I see it as a game of energy, where to be as congruent with yourself as you can be and live in a congruent environment as you can be. You know, not for the sake, as I said, of goody-goody, but just for the sake of being congruent with your own energy and relating to people who are, you know, in an authentic way, I guess. You know, and
like a literal game, like we're souls here playing.
Yeah. And look, I think, if we get to the nitty-gritty of that, I think we can leave this game. Like even these two guides who have hung around with me and gotten older in Earth years, these two astral guides who are so early on, were telling me stuff about myself. That they were ex-humans. Like, I even know myself that I kind of chose to come back this lifetime, not so much to wake up, but just to help others do a bit of stuff as well, you know, and to do stuff in the astral and this kind of stuff. So it's taken the drive out of it. Like I'm generally not as pissed off with things as I was, and I think we are preparing for death. I mean, even my higher self showed me my own death. It was really weird. I'm in the astral, and I heard my my higher self say, I wanted to see my own death.
Is that the blonde guy?
And no, this was someone else. Okay. This was like, it was my own voice saying I want to see my own death. And it was fascinating. I hang on, I'll just 1 second. Hang on. 1 second.
No problem. Sure. Yeah.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
So, and then I'm lying on this, like, it was like a hotel room, it felt like, and I'm lying on the floor going, what's going on? I'm in the body that, you know, was this carnation, and I can't move. I'm trying to pull myself up, and there's all this blood, and I'm drowning in blood, and I think, okay, geez, my heart's going crazy, and I'm going, whoa, I'm dying. And it was like a literal experience of you know, corporal death, you know, and I just allowed myself to drown in my blood, and it was okay, you know. And I remember coming back into my physical self, and my heart wasn't beating. So it's like the astral chakra heart is beating, but the physical heart wasn't. So it was like, I guess you could say it's like losing the fear of death. It could be losing ego, death, whatever. But it was very much shown as this lifetime, and I think that yeah. So once we get over the genuinely the fear of death, we kind of then, I think, kind of get over the fear of life, you know, to sound a bit glib, you know, and kind of just enjoy the actual 3D existence is actually very beautiful. I'm not talking about the pseudo 3D experience of what is overlaid in the programs, but the actual 3D experience, like the world that is around us, is a very beautiful place and very empowering. I think that's where a lot of people can get their energy from.
Like behind you, it looks wonderful.
Well, that's actually a picture.
That's beautiful.
But
so,
nice, yeah.
Have you ever? I mean, with all your chances of corroborating experiences and almost, you know, being able to bring evidence to this, and now that you're training people and you're waking people up, I mean, how much does real evidence play? Like, or do you feel like you have to? Or that you have an opportunity to change the dogmatic paradigm that we're in by providing more evidence to people or to scientific researchers? Or, I mean, is that just naturally happening with others like yourself, and you guys just sort of waking people up, sort of more from the ground level. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. I think so. Yeah, more and more, I'm kind of not interested in proving anything. I mean, so once again, I'm very much acting from how it feels, what I wish to do. So, for instance, while it does prove itself, though, a really great experience was a few years ago. My wife has a leg injury from when she was a kid. It was sort of squashed by a truck, and they had to put it back together. And surprisingly, it sat on her body and can function. But anyway, she had a lot of pain in her shin and knee, and I said, "Can I try something tonight? I'm going to go astral here in this realm and call for healing, because as a healer, I thought, well, I should try this." Yeah. And so eventually, I get out of my body, and I'm hovering above her, and I can see her astral body there and stuff. And I think, okay, you don't really have to be that bright in the astral. It knows the intention, so it was just feeling of healing from the cosmos. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I expected something from above, because often when you do symbols and stuff, there's symbols are really powerful. You think of all the symbols in advertising. So I thought energy would come from above. Now, from below her, from her astral leg, there was this incredible. It was like a hole had been, and its light just shone out of her leg. This energy just went boom straight out of her leg. I thought, holy. And then her astral body went into her physical body, and she woke up, and I woke up because my astral body was shocked in her physical. So it was kind of good to be in the same room to corroborate this.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what had happened was immediately a little hole had opened up on her knee. For the next year, calcified scar tissue was taken out of this hole. It had formed like little bones almost. Scar tissue had been causing her pain for years. Then after a year, this thing closed over and the pain subsided. Now, that was immediate in this reality. And it also, like the notion of healing, like a lot of people would choose to go through that. It was, she wasn't too impressed having a hole in her knee for a year. But it, defined healing. And so, you've got to be careful what you ask for, huh? So, but it was a feeling of immediate. There was an immediate. What I feel in this realm, in the 3D realm, it's very scattered. The mind is very scattered, very unfocused. So higher realms, higher aspects of ourselves literally can't hear us. I think that's why you have all the traditions of prayer and mantras. Verbal mantras are very good to go into the astral as well, just saying something again and again and again. And it's a feeling of like, if you can carry that intention through, as I said, just through those realms and go into the realms beyond sleep, beyond the veil, then you kind of get immediate answers because it's beyond time. So another experience I've got to tell you about, which was really amazing, where I experienced levitation in this reality, that really blew my mind as to what reality we're living in, and how this reality is a lot more playful than we think. This reality, there's a lot more purchase energetically than we think. And I'd gone surfing. I like to go surfing, and we're down near Torquay, near where they're having the Bells competition now. And I knew something bad was going to happen. I even said to my wife, I said, look, it's a beautiful sunny day, perfect weather, but I can feel something weird coming, but will we go? Let's go. Went down there. First wave I got at this camping ground, and I felt this really strange step in the wave. My leg slipped, and I felt a rip in the knee, and so I'm in pretty soon to the hospital, and pretty soon lying that night, leg wrapped up on crutches, being told I'd have to have an op in 6 weeks because something had torn. And I remember the doctor was a cool dude, and he said to me, I said, so that's it? And he looked at me and just said, who knows? It was kind of cool, He was one of those young doctors, a surfer, a bit open. I remember that kind of opened a door in my mind. I remember thinking, who knows? That's interesting, rather than just the prognosis, which is kind of good. That night, it felt right to lie. I was lying on my back because I couldn't turn over, and I remember I had a mantra, and this can help people with mantra. And my mantra at that time was I'd been exploring the notion of what is this reality. We have a perfect template. At all times, and it felt very real. So I remember my mantra was, I deny the illusion of my injured knee and give thanks for my perfect health. That felt right for me. Some people, they call that denial of reality. It doesn't feel right, then don't use it. At that time, that felt right, that wording.
Can you say that again? Just
Yep, I deny the illusion of my injured knee and give thanks for my perfect health. So my intention was to go astral for something to happen, I don't know. And I would say that mantra again and again, because what you hope for is mantras go sort of gobbledygook, but after a while, when you fall asleep, you might take that intention with you into the non-logical realms. So it's the non-logical realms that you want to go into, the realms of no condition. You know, the gravity does that, all this rubbish we're programmed with. And so I did that all night. Nothing happened. I wake up, kept doing it. I just kept repeating. I'm relentless. Like a bull terrier, you know, with the mantra in its mouth, just kept saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. And beyond dawn now, it was light. And I just thought, okay, it's light here. Nothing's happened. I didn't go astral, bugger, because it generally happens before dawn. Then I kind of catapulted myself onto my stomach, which was difficult to do. Then I felt the vibrations come. I thought, hang on, I'm awake here. Wife's next to me. I'm in the tent. It's light. You know when you're awake physically. The vibrations sound like a bull roar. I don't know if you've ever heard a bull roar. They use them to muster animals. It's like a really loud kind of vibration, like a thick whip going around. Really loud vibrations. Then I hear my higher voice. I can't be judgmental. I heard my higher voice say the Lord's Prayer, would you believe, which I couldn't recite in as now. And I'm thinking, well, later on I thought Lord's Prayer, I guess there are a lot of people with an intention that is pure, perhaps, over the centuries with that. Anyway, every time I got to on earth as it in heaven, it would repeat those two lines and keep saying the Lord's Prayer. So I had two of my voices overlaying itself, one saying the complete Lord's Prayer over and over, and the other one just saying on earth as it in heaven, on earth as in heaven. I'm not a religious person. Not consciously, you know. So, yeah, anyway, what happened then was the vibrations got very loud, and then my body was lifted off my mat and turned over, and I was freaking out. I was totally awake, and I'm thinking, oh, my. I'm being lifted up. I can feel my weight lift. I'm totally awake. Put down. I feel all these action on my knee, a lot of like fingertips, and I feel something about to yank my feet, but I'm awake. And I'm freaking out, and I just scream out. You know, I'm just thinking, no, not this. A bit of a wimp at the time. I never had an astral experience during wakefulness, and the upshot was, in about a week, I was mowing the lawn, and I let go of the mower. You know, I could walk, and I didn't have to have an op, and my crutches went away soon. I was playing squash before I knew it. So I'd done something. Something had happened. To my mind, miraculous or against what the medical profession said. So, and it was definitely related to that feeling. So, and also, once again, see, this is only by proving. I don't necessarily feel the need to prove things so much to others. It's more, where can I go with this? And having gone down that, work as an energy healer, so I'm sort of thinking, well, where can I go with that as a healing modality as well? So, interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, it reminds me of some of the lucid dreaming healing that we talked to Robert Wagner like a few years ago now, and it was just fascinating because it was really, to me, again, evidence that that something can happen in these other realms that affect your physical body.
You can get shit done in the other realms.
You get shit done with enough focus and intention and mantras.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good title to a course. Let's go where you can actually get shit.
No, you can. You go ahead. Yeah, you could have that. You keep that.
For that. Okay, thank you very much. But you're right. It just doesn't have the wishy-washiness. And I tell you, that's what I mean by losing emotional charge. Really, for me, it was a choice of when I recognized that was more real or closer to what is reality, but a truer reality, because stuff gets done. And this reality is pretty slow. I even analyze my mind when I come back. It's pretty fragmented. And, I got to tell you another weird thing that happened a few years ago to help that fragmented mind. I was meditating, and then all of a sudden I felt a tweak in the back left of my brain. Something really weird happened. And I went out to my wife and said, look, something freaky's happened. And she said, what? I said, I can't I can't speak. I don't know the names of people in my family. I couldn't put one sentence together. And I was still doing a bit of music at that stage as well. I was doing Reiki, but still it was before I'd come out astrally. And I remember I would rehearse all the names of people I would see that day, all of my colleagues, family members. I couldn't enter into conversation, and I was a real chatterbox. Like I was a clown, a bit still, and still a bit of a clown. But I couldn't have one conversation with the person because I couldn't think of the word by the time the conversation had gone. So my brain couldn't grab at things. And a couple of years ago, I had an MRI because I got concussion, and they actually analysed that part of the brain. They said no, there was no lesions. You had no stroke. So it was something that was. And then someone said to me, Greg, I think that is a trade-off for astral awareness. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because what I found was the narrator just disappeared. So what I mean by that is there's nothing going on. There's no background noise. So I found it easier to meditate because
the chatter
even now as I talk to you, even in the gaps as I talk to you, there's nothing going on. So I found I took a while to rewire, like I call oranges tomatoes, and that was one of the reasons I wrote my book on astral travel. I simply found myself in Spain with a bit of time, and I thought what I'll do is I'll get from one end of the sentence to the other end, and I'll be forced to fill it out. And I thought, well, what do I want to write about? I'll write about my astral experiences because I hadn't written them down. Now, that is pretty freaky way. If that is pushing me to do that, that is something that you wouldn't write a screenplay for, because it was at the time quite challenging because I literally could not have a conversation.
Yeah, that's funny. I heard of. I just finished a book a few months ago by the creator Dilbert Scott Adams, and he kind of had the same thing where he just fucking snapped into this, and it ended up being spasmodic dysphonia or something like that. And he ended up, they kind of told him he wasn't going to be able to beat it or something like that. And he sort of did this. He beat it himself after they gave him kind of
very similar with intention and repetition.
I haven't researched it. I haven't met people with that. But I mean, I tell you, it was, I'd say it's probably the same. I think it is energetic. I mean, at the time I thought, because that offshoot of not having the narrator, therefore I would say it was a good thing. It took me a long time though to get the gears working. So the gears work in a different way now. So I even found a lot of people said, even the way I wrote in my book was kind of more poetic than I would normally write. And I think it probably has changed the way I've related with words. But it was at the time pretty trying, pretty troubling to operate in this realm when you just couldn't find words. Just couldn't find them.
But now when you look back, I mean, maybe it's so important to how you articulate things now, and how you're just a fascinating person to have a conversation with, and your workshops. And I mean, it's almost as if that had to happen for you to get to the next level of teaching or something.
I would say so, because as I said, when I got concussion a couple of years ago, which lasted about 9 months, which I had tinnitus for 9 months, wasn't good. But I'm not... the medical profession is good for putting it together again. I was reluctant to get an MRI. But I wanted to see if there'd been damage from the concussion. And so it was interesting. And they really, because they were interested in that story, this particular doctor I trusted, I said, look, this happened years ago. And they had a good look at, I know where it happened. I felt it in my brain. And she said, no, it definitely was not a lesion or a what do you call it now?
Yeah, an embolism or like a, what did you call it?
Nothing like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So there was nothing physical. So that kind of, I thought, then I really did think, okay, obviously led that way. And even, I tell you, it's funny, when I was because I used to be a conductor, and it was, when I started having these astral experiences, I was still working in that profession, and it's a very ego-driven profession. You kind of have to be, and it was really difficult because I found myself speaking to people of influence, all of a sudden saying my truth. People go, Greg, why did you say that? Do you realize how important that dude is? And I thought, oh, shit, what did I just say to that person? And I couldn't help it. I know it was really weird. It was like the telepathy. I started being authentic in environments that weren't necessarily diplomatically appropriate to be authentic in.
Yeah, yeah.
Like really authentic, like, that kind of. And the last time I conducted, I never forget, I thought, just get through this concert, just do it. And something grabbed my arm, and I remember, you've got to control this orchestra, you know. And I'm conducting away, and then I'm feeling my arm being pulled this way and that. I'm thinking, and I'm just sweating. I'm thinking, just get through the damn thing, just survive, you know. And I don't have control of my limbs. I've got to. It's like other forces were turning me in a direction. I remember when it was about 16 years ago when I made the decision to go in the direction of kind of toward energy and consciousness. And I had an opportunity to sort of go to Italy for music. I remember thinking, okay, I got this other opportunity. What do I do? I remember thinking, what am I more interested in? What fascinates me more? I've done all this training my whole life in music. I'm prepared for this career. Here's a maybe a golden opportunity, or do I want to go in? And I just thought, look, it was kind of taken out of my hands. It was very much, for me, once again, it sounds cliche, but it really was a sensation of surrender. So it was a feeling of, look, I've got to go with this external forces, and at that stage I was being visited by ETs and all sorts of weird shit was happening at home. My wife would say, you're getting those ETs, but I don't want aliens in the house tonight. I do not want aliens in the house tonight. It was like pretty funny time.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing.
So if you're a Graham, you'd be saying you do want aliens in the house tonight.
Yeah.
Is that
well, I'm not quite at that level yet, so.
Well, what makes us scared of them? When I saw myself as a really weird-looking one, and when I realized that, holy shit, I was actually an alien just a few lifetimes ago, it made more sense to me, and it made my disassociation with this reality make more sense as well. I know that can be, you could, on a psychoanalytical level, you could say that's a certain cop-out, but not really. You feel it on a cellular level, this feeling of, and there's a vibration within me that is not of this planet, and that this makes sense, and it's kind of like a detachment that starts to form over time, that you're kind of watching your drama unfold, and therefore, because you have that split-second reaction time, how I take it is that your astral body actually can be always awake. So it's like a preemptive body. It's around your physical body. I think it's related to the fifth sense or the sixth sense, whatever they call it. Yeah. So it's your preemptive body. So it exists before the physical, not the other way around. So physical body is just the last port of call.
Like a layer or something. Yeah.
So I mean, it exists before my physical. I'll feel things in the astral before I feel them in the physical. So the trick is to honor that and to be detached so that it just doesn't get the drive. And I've just found, as I said, I keep on harping about the emotional body, but I find we're more and more, it doesn't mean, there's feelings and there's emotions. There's feelings that derive just from being, like, like the feeling with that monster when I just felt the empathy, it came from feeling rather than an intellectual concept of how I should feel. So I would if I were to, it's just semantics in the end, but if I were to group emotions separately to feelings, I would say emotions don't support you. They're based on condition. Because of that, this happens, or like you're a little kid, clean up your room, be a good little boy, and I'll show you my love.
Yeah.
Like that is kind of like a distortion of what love really is, because it's based on the conditions.
Yeah, but it's like another Buddhist principle, like non-attached appreciation, It's that equanimity and the non-attached appreciation where you're kind of detaching with love from things, and leaving that sort of emotional conditioning aside.
I think so, and I think that this whole state, that's what I mean by this being the playground for the astral. So in this reality, the reality of 3D, I'd say to those who are listening and want to have astral experiences, just kind of keep feeling into yourself. I mean, more and more I feel invisible. And it sounds weird, but I feel kind of invisible. Like even as I'm talking to you, my experience of the world is kind of this, you in front of me, not this. And at the same time, it's this that is experiencing that. So it's like you're experiencing through the prism, as in prism and not prison. Yeah, that's prison is duality. Prism is what we are. So I think more and more duality is dead in the water. I think this notion of good and evil once you recognize it for what it is dead in the water. I think karma is dead in the water. I think karma feeds certain beings, feeds certain processes. I think there are RETs and humans conspiring to keep us in this karmic stream. And I think we can move out of that stream.
Nice.
I think that's why we're here. I really believe we can move out of it. And part of it is to let the anger go, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I hit a red punching bag for a long time. A long time I was hitting a red punching bag. A long time, seeing a lot of faces, a lot of things. You got to let it go. Just do what you need to.
That's an amazing. I mean, that's really like an amazing summary. I love the way you've articulated that, and so I guess if people can check out your website and they can. Are you still doing like physical seminars and training and stuff in Australia? Like. And then people can read your stuff on your site as well and your book. I mean, there's all kinds of resources, right?
That's right. There are, and I'm even putting together an online course. So because a lot of people are saying, "Can you do an online course?" So I'm putting together a pretty good one, like a membership thing where people, it's not so much, and then they got access to all these videos and MP3s. I just figure, just get it down where people can see it.
Yeah. When are you gonna have that ready then?
I really hope in the next month.
Can you let us know, and we'll get a group of us to do it, you know, together.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's really, you've really inspired me to get a little bit more spiritual and focus on this stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great. Now look, I think that's great. I think, and also just, well, you know, it's, why not? You go in the Astral, say lose weight. You know, I mean, anything can happen. I just think. Just to lose the fear of it, to recognize any program of fear that comes in, you know, and often often I'll even look at what would be an uplifting TV show, right? Like a good show, like a show that is positive, and I'll feel sometimes this level of anxiety, and this is when I was researching all this conspiracy. What I found was that the Americans, when they first got the TV up and running, the whole idea of television was as a commercial prospect. It was to make money. And so they actually patented a certain signal that is still in TVs today. I'm not sure if it's so much in... it doesn't feel like it's in some of the streaming things, but on actual TV. And it was a certain... vibration, a certain frequency to make you stressful, because they worked out that if you were kind of on edge, you're more likely to respond to the advertising.
Yeah.
So
music too, I think music was made with that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what I kind of urge everyone and myself to do is just, even if you just pick something up and look at it and just don't feel good, then put it down. Yeah. Simple as that. And it doesn't mean you're putting your head in the sand and ignoring everything. It just means you're just not that frequency, that program.
It's not resonating. Really, literally not resonating.
Literally. So anything that helps you not resonate with it. So, you know, I've got a lovely crystal bowl I use. I've got, you know, whatever tools feel right for you. And I'm in the end where we're sovereign entities. You know, no one can mess with you. You're a sovereign entity, so it is all, I feel, an aspect of our own doing on a higher level. Like we're kind of having a bit of a chuckle, pulling ourselves out of this murky water bit by bit. I think if you realize you've got a hand in it, because as I said, these beings that can take us out of body and outwardly do things to our energy bodies and physical bodies. Obviously, they have a very good knowledge of our systems, and so ostensibly they've got permission to do that because they've got a hand, as I said, in our DNA. Yeah. So then you've got to realize, okay, you know, as we would do if we've got, you know, playthings on a certain level. But I mean, we're waking ourselves up, and as I said, I genuinely, there are beings up there that seem to know a lot more, seem to be helping me to wake up and others to wake up. But so it is a situation that is rigged in our favor. It's rigged in our favor. It's a question of shrugging off the illusion and kind of getting out of the dualistic paradigm. And it's a kind of a bit of fun to discover that, and to realize it's all bull.
And that's why the vampires have to ask before they come in.
Absolutely. And then you think, okay, as I said, the succubi, like, why was I letting them in? And And like the other day, I thought I was an astral, just lying there thinking, oh yeah, I should go to sleep soon. I look across and there's this woman floating above my wife. Wasn't a good energy, and she sees me, and she goes out the wall, and my wife wakes up and I said, what were you experiencing then? She said, I was just having a nightmare.
Yeah.
Now, in her nightmare, she wasn't seeing this person, but this being playing a role,
causing it, or manipulating
some kind of
it,
some kind of manipulation going on. So I will always welcome that. Like when I set up this vortex around this chair that I use, this astral chair, and I set up this intentional vortex for astral connection, I felt this smash of glass and this woman's voice scream out. I just thought, yeah, baby, bring it on. Anything that gets that kind of invisible realm start coming through is exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it's there to wake us up. It's only there to wake us up. It's only there to wake us up.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So
I like it.
Yeah, we got to get people to change that thought, that paradigm.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's
absolutely.
I love the way you say that. Where you are, it is, you know, tilted in our favor.
That's right.
It is.
Wake up.
I sincerely believe that. You know.
Yeah.
Well, a couple hours has just flown by here.
I have no idea of the time. How we?
Oh, it's been one of my absolute favorite chats.
Yeah,
Ben.
it's been
Oh,
great.
so cool talking to you guys.
Unbelievable. Like, please keep in touch when your online course comes out, and we'll
for sure.
Yeah,
Where can our listeners track you down in the meantime?
Okay, so if they Google Greg Doyle Astral, my website is www.gregdoyleastral.com. So stuff will come up, and I got the book there. I think over there you can get the book over there on Amazon, and bookstores will get it for you. So, but I've got Canadian. I wonder. I've had I do Skype sessions with people too who seems to help people. So people can also look online because all around the world people seem to really love this stuff, which is great.
Yeah,
you know?
it's waking people up, man. It's awesome. Are you traveling around at all to North America?
I do. Well, I will. Look, I haven't. The funny thing is, Brisbane's a kind of sleepy area, but I think I do regular events here, and there seem to be so many people interested. I go down to Melbourne. I got something in Sydney, but I haven't been offshore with it yet. But I will set something up. I mean, I will. As I said, I only just started doing workshops in the last kind of few years, so I'm kind of refining things. So I will come over there at some stage, and it'd be good to travel more abroad and share this stuff. Absolutely,
yeah, for sure. That's great. Yeah,
and if not, in the meantime, we can meet astrally on like Easter Island.
Pull me. You have permission to pull me out by my feet, by my arms, however you can get to me. Just throw that intention
It'll
out
happen
there.
anyway. It'll happen anyway. Keep it on your dreams.
Pull me out. Yeah.
You guys aren't pulling me out. You guys can both come, and you guys can each grab a leg.
You got to stop the smoking. You don't dream. You're too much of that weed.
The world's probably better off if I just stay out of the astral realm for now.
Could be mayhem.
That's right, exactly.
Nothing wrong with a bit of mayhem, I tell you.
Wow, well that was amazing. That time just flew by, Greg. Huge thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And
thanks for asking.
Yeah, let us know when that stuff pops, and we'll send Graham through the course and see how he turns out.
I'm the guinea pig here, so.
Absolutely. That'd be good. Just gives more time and just takes you through steps.
Yeah.
So it's good fun putting together. Good fun putting together, actually.
Right on. All right, Greg. Thanks a lot for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy what's left of your day.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
You too. Okay, see you.
Bye.
And that was our chat with Mr. Greg Doyle. What'd you think, buddy?
Mind blowing. That could be my all-time favorite app.
Ooh, you got a new all-time favorite?
No, seriously.
Really?
I'm fucking just enthralled.
Really?
Yeah.
You're just loving it, I could tell.
Just fucking loving it. I'm inspired. No, really. I mean, he just like, I don't know.
Good.
Sometimes they just make sense. No matter, even if they sound crazy, they just make sense. Like the way he articulates it, and maybe I've been through enough, like almost getting there that I understand what maybe could be next or something. I don't know. It's
almost
just weird.
Getting there.
Yeah, almost.
Brings you back to blue balls.
No such thing.
Can you get blue balls with astral travel?
Maybe you can get rid of them.
Astral travel blue balls.
Maybe you can get rid of them
because you've been so close, and you can't lucid dream, and you can't astral travel.
That's
You're
what
just
I got, astral blue
got
balls.
astral blue balls.
That's what it is.
Yeah. That's why you've been so angry
denying them in
lately.
real life.
You
but
just
I
need
really
to get
have them
Astral. And once you get Astral, you're just going to blow your wad. Astral.
But I'm going to do it with equanimity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fuck, that was
Sorry,
mind-blowing.
Greg.
That was mind-blowing. No, that's awesome. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great
No,
one.
honestly, I'm inspired to like, because it makes me think that really meditating is part of the key of being able to focus, whether that's your mantra or point of focus meditation or even mindfulness will help you get there. But all that's important. I think it's important key along the way.
There you have it, guys. So check out Greg's website and check out his work and sign up for his course when it comes up, and you'll be a pupil alongside Graham. Graham will be your schoolmate.
I'll pull you out from the feet.
You can try. If you pull me out, I might slap you.
Yeah.
Then we'll both wake up. Big thanks to Greg. I guess it was morning over there? Afternoon. Not night. Do you have to pee? You look like you have to pee.
I was thinking about what time it was over there, but I just thought I'm not even going to worry about it.
Yeah, it's
is
earlier.
an
It's much
illusion.
earlier there than it is here.
Time is an illusion. I like how he confirms your it fits in with your paradigm as well with the digital universe and the simulated stuff. Right?
There you go. Bingo bango. And speaking of digital universe, head over to grimerica.ca/support in the digital universe and sign up to send us some digital currency so that we can pay our digital bills so they don't shut off our digital feed.
Yeah, right on, buddy.
And we can
Thanks.
keep having these uninterrupted digital conversations onto your digital devices. Graham really has to pee right now. So what else you got, buddy?
Nothing. I'm interested. I want to get into the chats, and I know I can see
You're
a couple
all excited.
things
Are you
flashing
excited
up
and
about-
you have to pee at the same time?
I can hold the pee.
Can you? But you can't hold the excitement. That's good. Reinvigorated at episode 279,
Yeah,
278, 281.
Not including black budget.
Got to throw that caveat in all the
Well,
time.
yeah. I mean, we're over 300, right, with the black budget.
Plus where there's a bunch of eps that didn't get counted too, like all the paradigm ones, and
They didn't get counted. I think they did.
not in the ep counts.
Yeah,
No,
they
they're
did.
just shit shows.
What?
I do the numbering of the episodes. How did you know?
You didn't
You're
count
gonna
those?
argue
They
with
were
me?
good, like 50. They're
We didn't even
half-hour
start
episodes.
numbering the episodes till 101. And it turns out that 100 of them were actually on like 113 or something like that if you
I
counted the
don't
paradigm
think so. I
episode.
think we counted them.
Go count.
Okay.
Let me know what you come up with. give me
It's just
a,
because you've already you're just putting in the caveat because you messed up a couple numbers along the way.
No,
You
I know
you've
because I just had to
renumbered-
go through and number them all to get on Alexa.
Oh, did you?
Oh, we're supposed to talk about being on Alexa.
Alexa,
We're on Alexa.
play the Grimerica
Alexa,
show.
The G show.
The G. What?
She couldn't figure out Grimerica.
Are
Alexa.
you serious?
Alexa, play the G show, episode 142. Graham's a
The
schmuck.
G show.
Yeah. What else?
That
What would
sounds
you go
sexual.
with?
I don't know. Gray America?
If it doesn't have Grimerica, it's not going to have Grimerica.
So it doesn't have words that aren't real?
Maybe we could have just been the America show.
Alexa doesn't go by sound and
I
phonics.
guess
It's
not.
just like
It
it
really-
has to be in the
It
fucking
really does give you
dictionary.
a pretty good idea of where the cutting edge of technology is at. At least
You
on
have
the
to
consumer
shorten.
level.
You have
Yeah.
to shorten.
We had to go to the G show. In 2018, we had to go to the G show. Grimerica.
I was wondering why you're doing that weird G show thing earlier.
Yeah.
Could have called it the G spot.
Then we don't
Rhymes-
want
rhymes
the
and Graham.
traffic that we're gonna get with the podcast called the G Spot. Maybe we do. Probably do better, but maybe less donations. I don't know if that's possible. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
And thanks for
The lives.
everybody in the live
Bye,
stream.
live
If there was
stream.
anybody
If
there,
there's
and all
anyone
that.
there, if it's
the chat.
working.
Yeah. Nice.
Later, be